Put your headphones on. Sit back and listen carefully, because what I am about to tell you started with one folder, one ordinary folder, sitting on a desk that used to belong to my husband. I did not know when I opened it that it would lead me somewhere I never expected to go. My name is Margaret. I am 34 years old. 6 months ago, my husband Arthur died suddenly. A heart problem nobody had seen coming. One evening, he was laughing at the dinner table. 3 days later, he was gone. Arthur had built a small furniture business from nothing. 15 years of work. A small workshop that grew into 2 showrooms and a loyal group of customers who trusted his name. His business partner was a man named David. They had known each other since college. Arthur trusted him completely. So did I. After the funeral, everyone told me the same thing. Let David handle everything. You focus on grieving. He knows the business better than anyone. For the first 2 months, I did exactly that. Then something small made me stop trusting that advice. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning. I had gone to the office simply to collect some personal files of Arthur's. Old photographs, a few letters, nothing important to the business itself. David was not in that day. His assistant let me into the small back office Arthur and David had shared for years. While looking through a drawer, I found a folder I did not recognize. It was tucked behind some old tax papers, almost hidden. Inside were invoices. Dozens of them, all from a supplier I had never heard of, a company called Wessex Textiles and Wood Supply. I flipped through them slowly. Something felt wrong immediately, though I could not yet say exactly what. The amounts were large, very large. Larger than any single order Arthur had ever mentioned to me over dinner, back when he used to tell me about his day. I put the folder in my bag and said nothing to anyone. That night, I looked closely at every single invoice. Something did not add up. The company address listed on the invoices did not exist. I checked it later on a map, and it turned out to be an empty plot of land on the outskirts of the city. The signature approving each payment was Arthur's. But it did not look like his handwriting. I knew my husband's signature better than my own. I had watched him sign hundreds of documents over the years. This signature was close. Very close. But something in the curve of the letters was subtly, quietly wrong. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time that night, staring at those papers, feeling a cold, sinking suspicion grow inside me. I did not confront David. Not yet. If something was wrong, a direct question would only give him time to cover his tracks. I needed to watch. Quietly. Carefully. The way you watch something you are no longer sure you can trust. Over the following weeks, I started paying closer attention. I began visiting the office more often, always with a simple excuse. Collecting more of Arthur's belongings, checking on old customers, learning the business for my own peace of mind, as I told everyone. Nobody questioned a grieving widow wanting to stay close to her husband's life's work. I noticed things I had not noticed before. David took calls in the stairwell, lowering his voice whenever someone walked past. Twice, I saw him meeting a stranger outside the building during lunch hours. A well-dressed man I did not recognize. Someone who did not look like any supplier or customer I had ever seen mentioned in the company records. Once, an employee named Fiona, who had worked as the accounts assistant for 6 years, mentioned something in passing while we were having tea. "It is strange," she said. "Since Arthur passed, some old suppliers stopped sending deliveries, but the invoices for them kept coming anyway." I asked her, carefully, casually, which suppliers she meant. She named 3. One of them was Wessex Textiles and Wood Supply. I did not react. I simply nodded and changed the subject. But my heart was pounding. I decided I needed real proof, not just suspicion. I called my cousin Nicola, who worked as a forensic accountant in another city. She had helped small businesses uncover fraud before. I trusted her completely, and more importantly, she would know exactly what to look for. I told her everything. The invoices, the strange signature, the empty address, the meetings with the unknown man. She was quiet for a moment on the phone. "Margaret," she finally said, "this sounds like it could be a lot bigger than a few fake invoices. Send me everything you have. Carefully. Do not let anyone know you are looking into this." For the next month, Nicola worked quietly in the background, examining what I sent her, cross-checking bank records I was legally entitled to as Arthur's widow and part owner of the business now. What she found made my hands shake when she finally called to tell me. "Margaret," she said, "Wessex Textiles does not exist. It never did. It is a shell company. Someone created fake invoices under that name for the last 4 years, and payments were transferred out through it into a private account." "Whose account?" I asked, though somewhere inside me I already knew. "It traces back to David," she said. "Not directly under his own name at first. He was careful. But one of the linked accounts eventually leads straight to him." "For years," I whispered. "He has been doing this for 4 years?" "At least 4 years that we can prove," Nicola said carefully. "Margaret, there is something else. I found records showing he has been quietly negotiating to sell a portion of company assets to an outside investor. The same man you mentioned seeing him meet outside the building." "Sell the business?" I said. "Without telling me? I am part owner now." "He seems to be planning something," Nicola said. "And soon. There is a company event coming up, is there not? Something to honor Arthur's memory?" My stomach turned cold. "Yes," I said slowly. "Next Friday. The 1-year anniversary celebration of the second showroom opening. David insisted on organizing it himself as a tribute to Arthur." "I think," Nicola said quietly, He plans to announce the sale that night, in front of everyone, while the room is full of grief and nostalgia for your husband. It would be very hard for anyone to question him in that moment. I sat with that information for 2 full days before I decided what to do. I was not going to simply confront him privately. He had spent 4 years building this quietly, carefully, hiding behind Arthur's own signature. If I confronted him alone, he would have time to explain it away, to soften it, to convince me I had misunderstood. If this truth was going to come out, it needed to come out completely, in front of the same people he planned to stand before that night. I called my lawyer, a calm, direct woman named Rachel, who I had consulted briefly after Arthur's death regarding the business ownership papers. I explained everything. "This is serious, Margaret," she said after reviewing what Nicola had sent over. "You have a strong case here. Fraud, forged signatures, unauthorized asset sales. We can freeze his ability to complete any sale immediately and pursue this legally. But if you want to expose this publicly first on your own terms, that is also within your right, especially since this event is meant to honor your husband's legacy, not steal it." "I want both," I said. "I want the truth to come out where he planned to hide it. And I want the law ready to act the moment it does." Rachel prepared the paperwork. Nicola organized every document into a clear, simple folder that anyone could understand in minutes. Fiona, without fully realizing the scale of what she had helped uncover, agreed to be present that night, in case anyone needed to confirm what she had noticed about the supplier deliveries. The night of the event arrived. The showroom was beautifully decorated with soft lights and large photographs of Arthur scattered around the room. The same warm, familiar smile that used to greet me every evening at home. Employees, old customers, and a few business associates gathered, sharing memories, raising their glasses in his honor. David stood at the front of the room near the end of the evening, tapping his glass gently for attention. "Tonight," he began, "is about honoring a man who built something remarkable from nothing. And in that spirit, I want to announce a new chapter for this business, one I believe Arthur himself would have been proud of." He gestured toward the well-dressed man I had seen him meeting outside the office weeks earlier. "I am pleased to introduce our new investment partner, who will help take this business to heights Arthur always dreamed of." The room applauded warmly, completely unaware. I stood up. "Before we continue," I said, my voice steady, "I would like to add something to tonight's celebration of my husband's legacy." The room turned toward me, surprised but polite, assuming perhaps I wanted to share a memory, a tribute. David's smile faltered slightly. "Margaret, perhaps now is not the..." "Now is exactly the time," I said calmly. "Since we are honoring Arthur's legacy tonight, I think everyone deserves to know the whole truth about what has happened to it over the last 4 years." I opened the folder Nicola had prepared. I spoke clearly, Without shouting, laying out each piece. The shell company, the forged signature on invoices bearing my husband's name, the quiet transfers, the meetings, the planned sale happening that very night without my knowledge or consent as co-owner. The room fell into complete silence. David's face went pale. He opened his mouth to explain, but nothing coherent came out. The paperwork to freeze tonight's sale has already been filed, I said quietly. And copies of everything I just shared are with my lawyer, ready for the appropriate authorities. I turned to the investor, who looked deeply uncomfortable. I imagine you were not told any of this. He shook his head slowly, already reaching for his coat. The following months were difficult, but clear in a way grief alone had never been. David was removed from the business entirely. Legal proceedings recovered a significant portion of what had been taken, though not all of it. He never contacted me again after that night, and I never sought him out either. I took over running the business myself, with Fiona's steady help and Nicola's guidance whenever I needed it. It was harder than I expected, and also, quietly, more rewarding than I ever imagined. Arthur built something from nothing. For 4 years, someone tried to quietly take it apart, piece by piece, hiding behind grief and good manners and a signature that almost looked right, but was not quite. I found it anyway. Not through anger. Not through guessing. Through patience. Through paying attention to small things that did not add up. Through trusting that quiet, uncomfortable feeling in my chest long enough to actually look closer. I think, in the end, that is the real lesson in stories like this one. The truth rarely announces itself loudly. It usually waits quietly, in a folder behind old tax papers, for someone patient enough to open it.